everyone! Welcome to Artsonia's After School Art Club. Today, we have a fun art project from Janine Campbell, an art teacher from Michigan. Hope you enjoy the video and don't forget to have your artwork uploaded to your Artsonia gallery.
Hello, I'm Janine Campbell, and this is my home studio. I'm an art teacher on the west side of the state of Michigan, and I'm so excited that you are here with me today to talk about radial symmetry with some design work we're going to do. To get started, what you will need is a sheet of white paper. I'm using 12 by 18, but you can really use any size you'd like. I'm going to be using some darker shading pencils. I'm going to also use some watercolor pencils. A water with a paintbrush would be fine, but I'm going to also use a brush pen today, and then a lovely Sharpie to get us started for today as well. First, what you'll want to do is take your paper, and as you can see right here, it's not square. I want to make it square, so I'm going to take this corner edge and make sure it meets up to the edge down here. Once I've done that, I'm going to take my pair of scissors, which you'll also need, and cut along that edge. Now, if it isn't perfect, it's okay, so that you end up sort of with this triangular shape, like so. Now, this part's really important. When you do your next fold, you want to make sure that you have your open area above you, and you're going to take your two ends at the bottom where the fold is, and you're going to have those match up and meet together. Again, you want this to be pretty close in terms of the way that you are folding it. Again, keeping my folded edges toward the bottom, what I'm going to do is now have this corner meet up again. So essentially, I've made 8 different components by folding my edges this way so that they meet up with one another. From this point, I can leave this edge like this, or I can cut it again. I'm going to cut it again because I think it's kind of fun, and I'm going to have my edge make a fun little curly edge like this. But you can cut it however you want. I'm making sure that I'm cutting from that edge so that when I open up, it is all one piece. Now with your extra piece here, you can wear it as a really fun necklace or throw it out in the garbage, whatever you want to do. So now I have my pieces here and I'm ready to do some design work. What I'm going to do is draw on the face of this one a couple of different types of shapes. I'm going to use organic shapes, and I'm also going to use geometric shapes. Organic shapes are freeform shapes, and geometric shapes are regular edge shapes like circles, squares, triangles, rectangles, and so on. I'm also going to use some line work. I'm going to use some curving lines, some straight lines, but I'm going to make sure that my lines go from edge to edge or from shape to an edge. I don't want them just to be sort of stranded in the middle there. So I'm going to do some drawing of those lines on my piece using just a regular pencil. You could also use your darker pencils if you'd like to, but I'm going to start with my regular pencil first. And I'm going to draw lightly because if I make a mistake, I can easily erase it. Now, there's no real right or wrong when you are drawing these shapes. It's really up to you to decide how you want them to fill the page in an interesting way. So here are my shapes, like so. Now, what's going to happen next is I'm going to take this pattern and I'm going to outline it with one of my darker shading pencils. I can also use a regular pencil for this, but the reason why I'm using the darker pencils, like let's say I'm going to use a 7B for this, is because the graphite will more easily transfer when I start to translate my image. So what I'm going to do is open up my design. I've got the one here, and when something's symmetrical, it means that it crosses and mirrors on the line of symmetry. So each of these folds acts as a line of symmetry, and this design is going to mirror over to the next one. So as you can see, I've darkened it up with my darker graphite pencil. Now the next thing that I'm going to do to get this to translate or transfer over that line of symmetry is I'm going to fold so that it now touches the edge of that other side. And then I'm going to use my fingernails to scratch transfer. You could also use the blunt end of a marker cap or anything that has sort of a blunt end to it so that you can nicely transfer over the image. And because you're using a dark graphite, you're going to see this in a moment. Very scratchy this all along. That you can faintly see what the design's gonna look like. So just like I went over the design on this side, I'm gonna do the design on this side using that dark graphite. So that's what it looks like. Now that I've got these two done, I'm gonna do what I did before, except now instead of it translating into one, I'm gonna have it translate over to two. So I'm gonna fold this, again, using that line of symmetry, fold, fold, fold. And scratch, scratch, scratch. As you are making your design, you'll notice that once you get the other two components done, you can rub transfer the design so that it goes on the other half of the page. When you open it up, you will see that it's there very lightly. Sometimes you have to go over it more than once to get the transfer design. And then using your pencil, you can trace what you have so that you can know where you're going to put color. So now that I have this done, my next thing is to use watercolor pencils, Sharpie, and my brush to fill this with color really however I'd like. And you can do whatever you like with it. You could use watercolor pencils, you could use normal watercolor, you could use crayons, you could use colored pencils, you could use markers. It's really up to you how you want to finish this off. I'm using watercolor pencils because I think they have a lot of variety in terms of what you can do with them, and I really like the overall effect of that in the work, but you could really use whatever you'd like with it. I really like using watercolor pencils because you can use them like normal colored pencils. You can fill in your shapes and not have to be too careful about the way that you fill them in because you know that it's going to react to the watercolor and really spread out once water is introduced to it. So you can see that in some areas I'm being a little bit less careful. I also like using the brush pen because the water is held inside of it, and then I use my hand oftentimes to kind of pour the water out and control its use. You'll notice that I made a little bit of a mistake. I got some watercolor elsewhere, but I can adapt my design so that it goes exactly how I'd like it to go in the end. Be careful with how much water you add to your watercolor pencils, but keep, adjusting and going until you feel satisfied. And I was really happy with my results. Once I'm done, I add Sharpie designs to my outlines. This is really fun to do. You can do all kinds of designs. You could keep it symmetrical the way that I am, or you could make it asymmetrical. There's really no wrong answer when you're making your art, so really have fun with whatever design you choose. So I hope you had fun learning how to do this beautiful radial symmetrical design today, and you can use this in so many other ways. Feel free to take this, adapt it, make it your own, make different kinds of shapes, try different kinds of materials, and please post, share what you did with it, because I'm always excited to see how people take things that I share and make it their own. So this is what I did, but I'm excited to see what you do. Thank you so much and have an awesome creative day.